All right, we are here at my indoor worm bin and things are a little different starting here, and there's three things I want to go over today. First, we're going to try a change to my worm tower system in my Vermihut. We're also going to check on the mango peel and the celery stalk from 2 feedings ago and our last feeding, what we had in there. And then finally, we're going to check on the plastic bag that I put in there. Plant Obsessed had a plastic bag that she put in, had food scripts, and I happen to have the same thing with some spinach in there. So we're going to check on those three things. But first, let's talk about what we have right here. Normally in a tower or a Vermihut system, you have a layer where there's worms and they're digesting, making castings, that kind of thing. And then you put another tray on top of that after they've been going through it for a few months. And then the cycle continues, and then you take from the bottom the finished castings. Well, the one that we're currently working, it just isn't ready to have another one put on top. And the one underneath it isn't quite ready to have castings taken out, so I only have 2 trays. I want to put another one on top, but it can't go on top. So what I'm doing here is I've got wet down cardboard shredding and toilet paper rolls that I've cut up, and I'm actually gonna put this on the bottom. And here's my thinking. All the stuff that's being digested and the new food that comes in, some moisture creeps in, and the gravity is always gonna pull everything down. Well, that will inoculate this tray as it's just sitting here with no food. I'm not gonna feed it, it's gonna be on the bottom. And when my uppermost tray is, far enough along that I can start a new tray and put it on top of that uppermost tray, I'm gonna take this one, which will be inoculated now because all the worm stuff will have dripped down. And then the other thing is I just want more volume in my system in the hopes that the population will continue to grow, because I looked at the last video and there's just so many worms in there. You can see I put a lot of the toilet paper rolls. So a lot of wordiness there, but that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put on the middle layer, which was previously the bottom layer. And you'll see it's got some pretty good castings in it so far, but just not quite ready. So here we go with that one, right there. This one was the bottom and it's now gonna become the middle. So with this middle layer, which was the bottom, and you can see a worm right here cruising through and a little piece of, I think that's plastic. So we'll get that out. Well, what you can see here is this is pretty good castings and some worms in it. It's just kind of in almost like a foraging phase. It's not getting fed. And when we put it in here, there was still some cardboard shreds in it. So they have broken down everything. And even still, you can see this is a banana peel, the stalk part of the banana right there. So they haven't totally broken this down to what I consider finished castings, but we are gonna aerate it out here. And this is sitting right on top of the cardboard bin that we just put. In fact, you may be able to see through here the little pieces of cardboard through this tray right here. And you can see there are some worms in here. This looks like well, not sure, between blue or red wiggler, but there are a good amount in here. So these worm systems, like I've said in some other videos, it's not a very clean situation where, oh, I just take the bottom tray and it has all the clean castings. No, you're gonna have to fish out worms. I think we've aerated this out. Let me just flatten it out because the uppermost tray is gonna go on top of this. And from there, we will do our normal feeding. All right, let's go ahead and put on the top tray. And here it is. All right, so now we're at the fun part. We are at the top tray of 3 trays, and this is the one we've been dealing with for the past several videos. So here was our feeding zone down here, and I think I'm gonna switch it to here. I am not really gonna do anything with this paper. It's just in pieces. This I will try and save to kind of be a top covering, but I may decide later on to put a new paper in here. We'll just set this aside and dig in. And right away, we are hitting that bag. So let's go ahead and look inside of it. And sure enough, the worms are all throughout it. And sure enough, I don't see any of the green vegetable or spinach that was in it. So maybe some remnants of something right there. But they have done a pretty good job of cleaning this out. That is incredible. So thank you, Plant Obsessed, for giving that idea to all of us. That's a way we can make sure we get all the scraps out of our Ziploc bags. So I will just kind of take care of this. I'll clean it more and get the castings and make sure all the worms are out of it later. Because that can be a little bit tedious, it looks like, but that is fantastic. That is just great news. So there you go. Let's continue to dig in. And wow, right away, look at that fat guy. Look at that. Giant, fat red wiggler. And next to it is a blue worm, which is just as long but skinnier. So red wiggler's fatter, blue worms skinnier. But that is pretty neat. And then this worm right here, he is super dark. It looks like a juvenile. So let's keep going in here. Just kind of dig all around and aerate. The castings are looking fantastic. I don't know if we said this is 50-50 yet. I'm not quite sure we're there yet, but we're getting close. I still do see a lot of cardboard in here, but you can see lots of worms, which is another reason why I don't mind putting that tray on the bottom, because then they're just gonna have more room and maybe they'll populate even more. But just a really neat bin here. Wow, look over here. There is just absolutely crawling, teeming with worms. I guess they don't crawl, they slither. But keep digging under here, and oh wow, here we go. Look at that. Look at that right there. Got ourselves a little worm ball. Let's see what they're, I think this is the apple core. And it is. There's where the stem would come out of the apple, and this is kind of halfway down the apple, but that right there, folks, is a worm ball, even though it's not in the shape of a ball, but pretty neat. All right, I'm not gonna disturb them too much, but there's the other side of it. Hopefully I won't pick that back up and say, oh, look, another worm ball. But this bin is getting pretty full too. So I'm gonna cut down on the amount of bedding that I put in here too, and I can see some of the bedding. This must be the mango peel, possibly. Looks a little thicker than a banana peel, but it is still intact. Let's keep looking. I can't tell if this is banana peel or mango peel. Looks to me now like maybe it is banana peel, but let's keep going in here. And these worms were pretty happy doing what they're doing, but I am really messing with them. Wow, look at that. I'll just kind of sit here and look at this. Maybe I'll do a time lapse. All right, we got a good look at those. And we're starting to get into the feeding zone. So that mango and banana peel we're kind of looking at were from a couple feedings ago, but last feeding we gave them a pretty diverse bunch of food. Oh my gosh, look at that. Wow. I've just never seen the upper tray with this many worms. It is fantastic. That is just great. Just more worms to turn stuff into castings. Wow, here we go. Look at that. That is just amazing. Same thing. Let's do a little time lapse. That is so cool. That is so cool. And this right here, I'm not sure if that is the sweet potato. To me, it looks like it. Right there, there's some fibrousness and some flesh, and it's kind of in a conical shape, the peel is. So I think they ate through the sweet potato, and it was just a little piece that I put in here. So there you go, sweet potatoes. No issues at all for this worm bin. But let's go ahead and set up a feeding zone. And we will do that over here on this side. So I'll just kind of push this bedding out of the way. And I'll use the bedding that I already have in here, some of these bigger pieces. And I'll try and lay those down right here. There's another grape right there. So let me just kind of pick through here, get the stuff. We'll put the grape stems in there in the feeding zone. And we'll go from there. Now, I think in the last video I said I wasn't gonna put so big of a feeding in, but then when I looked back, I had put a big feeding in there. So I'm gonna try and go a little bit lighter, but we'll see if I'm able to do that, if I'm able to resist as I start pulling the food out. But that's where it's gonna be. Here is what we have. Lots of banana peels always, but there's some strawberries and lettuce heads, which we figured out go pretty quick. Previously frozen and then thawed out mostly, so that's where we will begin. Just put in some of the lettuce in there. And then apples, apple cores. Those always seem to bring out the worm balls when I play back the videos. Strawberries, and then just some odds and ends from the garden, some pepper tops, that kind of thing. And then a tomato, which I don't like to put a lot in because I don't want the bin to get too acidic, but little bits of any kind of those foods that you don't want to put too much in is fine. And then a couple of banana peels. So this will be our feeding. And then obviously we put in some coffee for some more food for them. I say obviously, but if this is your first time watching the video, I appreciate it. In fact, if you subscribe, I've got 3 bins and each one has its own playlist, so you can watch from start to finish castings of each of my worm bins. But we've got some grit, which is just pulverized eggshells. And that's basically the feeding that I do. So I think we've pretty much buried everything. And you can see this is pretty high here, and then we're kind of sloping down, which again will help any kind of heat issues that I might have created, which I don't think I would have because it's pretty small feeding. So that is the feeding for today. We started a little kind of experiment with putting a tray down there with some bedding. I'm not going to check on that every time, but maybe every other video we'll take a peek down there to see how it's doing. But it is eventually going to become the top tray and be the tray that I feed. This tray probably has a month and a half to go, I think, before I'm comfortable making it the middle tray. And at that time, we'll see how the current middle tray is, see how the castings are doing. And then we'll go ahead and harvest, and maybe I'll do a video on that. So just kind of cover up the food here. And I hope everybody is having a great day, and happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.